Are mass murders like the recent D.C. Navy Yard slaughter due to easy access to guns, or just too many, quote, homicidal maniacs on the streets? I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, joined now by Bill Whittle and Michelle Fields, who's sitting in for Stephen Green. In part one of this tripartite trifecta, we looked at President Obama's push for more gun laws at a memorial service for the dozen people recently gunned down at the D.C. Navy Yard. And in our members-only episode, part three, we'll propose ways to protect lives as well as civil rights. But the reaction from the gun rights community may sound jarring to many sensitive American ears. Here's NRA boss Wayne LaPierre.
The whole country, David, knows the problem is there weren't enough good guys with guns. When the good guys with guns got there, it stopped. I mean, what really happened here, the mental health situation in the country is in complete breakdown. And if we leave these homicidal maniacs on the street, they don't obey the law, they could care less about it, they're gonna kill. Yet the only way you can stop them is they send up the red flags. It's practically like a plane going down the beach with a sign behind it saying I'm dangerous, and we leave them on the streets.
Now, Michelle, some people might be asking themselves, how bad does it have to get before these hard right gun nuts realize that bullets are dangerous?
Well, I think that there are tons of people, and most of the people who have guns are not going around shooting people. People who are going around shooting people are the ones who have mental health issues. I mean, that's really the root of this problem. I mean, when you look at what happened at Sandy Hook, you look what happened at the D.C. Navy Yard, it wasn't guns that were the problem. It was mental health illness. And I mean, if you look at Chicago, Chicago has the strictest gun control laws, and look what's going on there. I mean, we're seeing the highest homicide rates. So I don't think right-wing nutcases, as you say, are going to wake up and suddenly give up their guns. They know that it's the mental health issue. It's not guns or bullets.
Well, Bill, why doesn't Wayne LaPierre understand how insensitive it is to refer to people with mental illness as, quote, homicidal maniacs? Won't that just promote discrimination against people with mental health needs?
That wasn't a great response in terms of style or rhetoric, but it was certainly the correct response in terms of the actual facts of the matter. We talk about gun control, but we never talk about crime control. We talk about limits on ammunition. We never talk about limits on insanity. I think the one thing we need to understand when these things happen is if you have one of these mass shootings a year, let's say, Barack Obama said he was been to 5, or you did, Scott, in the earlier segment, and he's been president for 5 years. So let's say round numbers, it's 1 a year. And let's say that the person that does the shooting happens once a year. In a population of 320 million people, that's a failure rate of 1 in 320 million. There is no product in the history of the world that has ever been produced that has a failure rate anything like that low. There's nothing comparable to a failure rate of 1 in 320 million. Nothing fails at a rate as low as 1 in 320 million. If we had 60 of these a day, you might be able to make the case that we have the failure rate that the iPhone has, and maybe we ought to do some quality control, but we don't. We have 1 a year. We have 1 in 320 million every year. Now, where do those odds come from, and where does that sound so heartless? What I'm trying to get at is this idea that you can legislate away randomness, murder, and insanity is simply not true. And as Michelle points out, everywhere where you try to do it by attacking the inanimate object, which you can control, turns out the insanity, the violence, and the murder gets higher and not lower.
Well, the Genius Bar is now open at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Bring your problems right to the Genius. You know, the problem with Wayne LaPierre's claim that, you might have to take a number. The problem with Wayne LaPierre's claim that we allow homicidal maniacs to roam the streets is where to draw the line. There are no doubt many more potential mass shooters mingled among us, but no one has developed a test to find out who they are. Most of what we know about the profile of dangerous people is gathered after the gunfire stops. We hear only about the ones who snap and start shooting. How far should we go in limiting the civil rights of troubled people? There's no clear-cut answer. So while we attempt to provide better care for people with mental illness, we need to acknowledge that the NRA is right, at least about this. It takes a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. For Bill Whittle, Michelle Fields, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott.